Yeah, the music is just helping us chill out while we go into game number 2 of the Darwin Gamers Esports Trophy for the Northern Territory Champions of Dota. So, this time around we have MDA on the Dire side. MDA will get... Hang on a minute. This is a remake. Wait guys, put out, we've got a remake. We didn't swap sides. We did? Really? Okay, yeah, I'll take your word for it. The Witch Doctor comes out first. I will. I'll just switch off for just a moment. So hang on a minute. I thought oh yeah, shit, I'm reading it backwards. Yeah, disregard that. Alright, everyone calm down. I was just very confused. Very, very confused for a moment. So, going into game number 2, what are we going to see that's going to be different this time? Well, what we didn't see that I was expecting to see was a Meepo ban. I'm actually quite surprised we're not going to see a Meepo ban in the first round of bans. We are going to see a Doom ban coming out from BP. Obviously feeling that Doom was a bigger part of the problem than the Meepo. I can get on board with that. The Doom had a well, it wasn't as flashy, we'll put it that way. It was not as flashy as the Meepo's contribution to the game. The Meepo netting something like 15 kills, but it was profound. So we see the Doom and the Faceless Void. Pretty interesting that they banned the Faceless Void and then pick Witch Doctor. Read into that what you will. Followed by a Viper pick after the Witch Doctor. And proceeding to ban out a Skywrath Mage, despite there being nothing that really synergizes that well with a Skywrath Mage. I don't know, do people perceive Ogre Magi to be a really, really, really strong pairing for Skywrath? It's perplexing otherwise. And coming out from NDA, we see a Panda ban and a Tinker ban. I can respect the Tinker ban. I can respect the Panda ban. So obviously we're going to have a very, very different game to the last one, given that 3 of the heroes that were played in the last one are banned this time around. Sentinel ban coming out from MDA again, they did ban that in the last game as well, so perhaps just a hero that I don't feel that comfortable playing against. And an Ember ban coming out from MDA this time, not coming out from BP. Maybe indicating that we're going to see a bit of split push coming out from MDA, but we'll see. So on the other side of it, from MDA, we've got a Timbersaw, we've got the Ogre Magi, and now we've got a Silencer. So this is a lineup that definitely can fight very early again. So we've picked another 3 stable heroes who can team fight early, and that you can make early plays around. We did see a Spectre ban from Boss Parnes. I wonder if BP knows something about Spectre from MDA that I don't. Otherwise, it seems like a little bit of an interesting ban. I don't really understand how it fits into the context of the other bans here. Right, dipping into the reserve time now for Dire. BP, what are you looking to pick up here? Well, you've got your mid hero. You'd have to assume that the Viper will probably go mid. It might not, but it probably will. Coincidentally, Silencer is an excellent matchup against Viper. He's one of the very, very few heroes in the game that can match. Not even match, he can actually beat Viper in a one-on-one mid. You're relying there, and it's a Visage pick. You're relying on the Silencer versus Viper mid though, on no one ganking you as the Silencer. If you don't get ganks into the lane though, the Viper will lose, and that's very unusual Visage here, Visage. So you have to think we've got our two supports. Core Visage, not a big thing. You see it now and again, but the skill cap required to pull off and it's not just the execution in fights to pull off a core Visage, it's the execution just to farm the items that are required, because Visage is not naturally a very fast farmer, but he definitely needs a gold lead in order to carry as a core. Do you mind turning the music down a little bit? Yes. That's right. So as we go into the last round of picks and the one last band, what are the other two things missing? So Silencer can be played as a hard carry, but the way it really works out, it usually tends not to be a hard carry. Blades of Wisdom put out amazing damage, but Silencer really struggles to stick to a target. And the moment someone gets in his face, he can't really deal damage anymore because he just doesn't have a get out of jail free card like a lot of other heroes do. So while you can play him as a one position, and there's the answer, there's a gyrocopter. Of course, this could be a support gyro, so this is an inherently flexible draft right now for an MDA. And it's the Visage gyro, so it is going to be a support Visage. Well, it'll transition into a semi-carry eventually, but it's not a core. It's the best way of putting it. It'll transition into a semi-carry naturally, just because marksmanship aura and those familiars, those birds, it is that VS. We are going to see a gyrocopter matching up against that though, and gyrocopter does not mind nomming into those birds one iota. And he's also very, very strong against the Visage in the landing phase. His rocket barrel just chews through Great People's Cloak, and we get a VS band. Now this VS band says something very, very specific to me that, I'm not going to flag it, but I know why I would ban the VS here, and it's not because of the Visage build, but we'll see that in just a second. And a Storm band coming out from Boss Biners. Where are they taking this draft? So, the Storm is very good against the Dro Ranger. That is something worth considering. It really forces the Dro Ranger into a BKB earlier than you'd normally like, and the Invoker comes out. So I don't really understand the VS ban in that context. The only reason I would have banned the VS there is if I was looking for a last pick, Enigma. Enigma is actually quite a flexible hero. Can jungle, Enigma can offlane, which is not well known, and Enigma can also safe lane solo quite effectively. So Enigma actually would work there, but Invoker, being let through until 5th pick, is an attractive pickup for these two teams that both favour the Invoker quite heavily. So the Meepo's still on the table. I don't think we're going to see a Meepo from Boss Biners. I think what we're going to see here is the offlaner. What will the offlaner be though? Unless I've totally just misread this. What will they pick to play in the offlane? And what will the offlane play against? I think it's reasonable to say that the offlane is going to be playing against a tri-lane composed of Ogre Magi, Silence and Gyrocopter. Who is the carry in that? That is another question, whether the Silence or the Gyrocopter is the carry, because either one of those are perfectly capable of playing on position or 4 position. Ogre Magi, pretty comfortable, is going to be our 5 position. There'll be Timbersaw in the offlane and the Invoker middle. I'd be very surprised if we see something radically different from that. What we will see from Boss Panes though, and it's a Pudge, so it's going to be a Pudge mid. That is a bold statement. So I think, does this push the Viper out of mid? I think it does. I'll be very, very interested to see. So, playing on the Dire, in this game we have BP, and I had a wig out before because I really thought that they were on the Radiant, because I get very confused very easily. And MDA playing this time from the Radiant. Very interesting to note. So a lot of people know that Dire has a late game advantage in terms of win rate, and they know that this is because of the Roshan advantage. What is not generally well known is that Radiant wins a lot more games than Dire wins games. And there are two main reasons for that. One of them is a legacy reason. It doesn't exist anymore, which used to be that they used to be able to do the Radiant Ancient. The Radiant Ancient was much easier to do, so you had more flexibility in what offlaners you picked. That's not the case anymore. Those shenanigans no longer exist because parking has been removed from dragons. However, you actually see more that's relevant when you play on the Radiant, because it's the top of your screen. And there are several other games where this is evident. I don't even know. There it is. There are several other games that exhibit exactly the same phenomenon. So you'll have like a symmetrical game where both teams start with the same stuff, and the team that's on the bottom and therefore is looking like up at the map because they see more of the stuff they need to see, tends to win slightly more. Interesting random stuff. Useless information. So, Bounty Rune going to Ogre Magi. And can we, sorry, would you mind telling me in-game login down a bit as well? It just announces the rooms. It's a bit of a pain. Right, so the lanes I think are they're not going to unfold the way we thought. Now this is an advantageous matchup down at the bottom for the Viper. That DD rune is going to help put the Timbersaw on the board, but it's not going to be the answer to everything. And on the back side of it, we have two actually very, very strong tri-lanes matching up against each other. Visage, once known as the king of tri-lanes, is still no slouch in a tri-lane. But on the other side of it, we've got Silencer, and even before the incredible buffs to his last word, he's been considered for a very, very long time in a lot of relatively learned circles to be an excellent hero to play against tri-lanes. More a question of what do you do with him after a tri-lane, really, because he's a very underfarmed hero after the tri-lane. And that mostly relates to Curse of the Silent. So, you know, he's doing some good play for us at the moment, but once he starts getting leveled up in Curse of the Silent, we're going to see this lane get very high indeed, and this lane is already very high. So Drow Range is burning through the consumables pretty fast. The key problem here is that she doesn't have a cell, so she's going to have to wait out the tangos, and that's going to mean that she's not farming, because shit's dangerous if she goes into farm, you know. In the middle lane, we have a classic matchup seen in approximately 2/3 of all pubs that ever played, which is the Invoker versus Pudge mid. In pubs, Invoker wins this mostly. It's just a more flexible hero. But, here we see the hook coming off, but the Invoker was wise to it, and he just mans up all over that Pudge, and the Pudge is forced to slink away. But he'll live, that's okay. Would not have lived if the Sunstrike hit, but that hurts a lot. That is no regen for Pudgy Boy. Pudgy Boy takes effectively a 300 damage auto attack because he walks too close to the Invoker. That's not real good early game. That wasted salve. Down on the bottom lane, I would expect to see the Viper win this by a fair bit, and certainly at the moment he's got a CS advantage, significant deny advantage, it's an ahead of level. And, I'll be very surprised if we don't see him top the CS chart, simply because he can bully the crap out of that. Aggro tri-lane running up on the top, MDA loves their aggro tri-lanes, and this, as I said before, is a lane where definitely both teams have some kill potential. Probably the weak link in this is, and where I would look to see the chink in the armour effectively that you got to prize apart to win this tri-lane if your MBA is the Drow, because Drow is, for all intents and purposes, a big range creep until quite late in the game. Once she starts getting high levels of frost arrows, you know, and gust and that, she's something more. But right now, she is basically a really big range creep. She doesn't even do very much damage, really, in the scheme of things. So she's not a big contributor to any try action. As I missed the first blood, as Pudge is slain by the Invoker. And I'm being reminded to talk about the aura as Silencer, as I miss another one. As Silencer takes a kill on the top lane. On the Witch Doctor, which is good to hear. Yeah, so of course the reason that they picked these two heroes together is that the precision, aura, marksmanship is the oldie, works on the largest birds. The largest birds are balanced under normal circumstances by the fact that the more they attack, the lower their damage gets. But because flat damage is added by precision aura, that does not happen, and the birds attack really, really fast and do heaps of damage, and it's very, very painful for everyone else involved. Being hit by them. It's pretty much free towers, and it's totally risk-free. That's how people play it. So you'll see the Visage push out nags and that sort of thing. So, right now, I will give the advantage in this tri-lane to MDA. Pretty clear advantage in this tri-lane, and that's the giant walking creep syndrome that I was talking about before. The thing that's surprising the most is how well Timbersaw is doing. He could be doing a lot worse out of this lane. The fact that he's even in the lane right now is something of a surprise to me. But he's hanging in there, while Viper takes what he wants to damn with the rest. Pudge having a bit of a rough time, but Pudge has a rough time in every lane because he doesn't lane. He's there to get some levels, and then he's going to go and make his impact felt elsewhere. The downside is that gives a lot of space for this invoker. He's going to go and find himself a tomato. No, maybe not a tomato. Where's he going to go? He's got the patience. He's got the patience. He's got the patience. Pow. That is some sick XP right there. So we're going to see some pretty early double Forge Spirit, I would say. This is, however, breathing room for Pudge, who is pretty damn happy to get his hands on CS, sitting on a naked bottle, isn't even at his urn right now. Right, so this is developing into another fairly slow early game with some good early pickoffs coming out from MDA. And just generally, solid, unremarkable lanes. Pudge has really done well out of that. Really happy with him to get some CS. He got some good CS in that time. So this is the worry. This one here is the worry. Everything else is going okay. You can probably deal with all of the other issues that we're having, but that one could definitely cause some problems because that's not a hero that bounces back particularly well. Well, I'm just all over the shop. I should have seen that one. Righto, so Pudge and Viper team up to get a kill on the Timbersaw, which will make Timbersaw sad because he did not yet have his arcane boots. And Pudge is going to be a jolly chap as he steams his way onwards. And look, there was method to the madness. Well, there wasn't to that. You really showed that creep. And that is a shameless KS by the Visage. So sometimes it doesn't matter when you miss a hook, and sometimes it matters in ways that you don't see coming. That was one that maybe you don't see coming because if he hits that hook, I don't know, I think maybe good old witch doctor buddy gets out alive. Maybe not, who knows. But he sure showed that creep. It was a good 50 gold he got over that. Farming the hooks, legit. So that will be Timber's. Timber even before went to CS for that. That's how enthused he was to get his arcane boots. He was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Oh. The pings. They're real. Quite real. Yep, saw that one coming a mile away and just backs off. So, that is damn early. That is like 8 minutes to that. You watch him shit these Forge Spirits out. Any minute now, he's going to do it. Glorious. Alright, well I'm going to stop waiting for that to happen because it's really boring. Pudge normally does interesting things, right? Well, wrong, because he's got no mana, so I'm not going to see anything interesting out of that. Let's go down here. We got the Timber. Timber's got to be a bit careful. He's not in the best shape now. So a death or two here will really hurt the Timbersaw. If Timbersaw doesn't take off, then he flounders. He's really a hero that needs to have a strong start to have a positive impact. He can bounce back with kills in early fights, but I get the feeling that we're not going to see a lot of early fights. This isn't a lineup from the other team that wants to take the risks that will lead to that. And that is one very dead. Oh, dodges it. No, he still goes down. The Witch Doctor goes down. But in return, they pick up a silencer off the backside of it. So it's not all bad. It was a pretty solid trade. Pretty solid trades everywhere. Yeah, I finally just worked out. Can you guys see on the big screen this thing here? I was trying to work out what that was for the longest time. I was like, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. No, it's actually the other spectator's screen. I can see what he's looking at. That is like telepathy, right there. The helm of iron will on our pilot will provide him some protection if he crashes. Not as much as the helm of the Dominator. Will let him dominate the ground with his face if he crashes by stealing the life of it. And is this really where you want to be? No, it's probably not. And the stunlock is real. I would have liked to have seen the attempted rock suicide there, but that true damage is ticking. It's not ticking fast enough. So, Pudge dies. That's a little bit unfortunate. It happens. It happens. This is baller. And that is some good stuff. No one's fighting me this game. That is what I like to see. That is a pretty solid mech timing. So, I said that they don't want to fight, but they can fight with the mech. Well, no, they definitely can't fight. You're not fighting with that. That is a recipe for disaster if you're fighting. So there's a few things that need to happen before they should be taking fights. Look away again, and Timber Sword dies. Look at that. I'm going to wake up to myself. So yeah, kills continue to be traded. Look, farm is still relatively even, but as I say that, it's kind of, there's a trend there. There's a definite trend. At the moment, though, the good news is that Dro is getting some space. The bad news is that space is being created by her being hugged by her two supports. And the worst news is that there is not enough space that any support can create to prevent that Dro from getting spammed out of the lane by Curse the Silence. So that's not as good as it could be on on the other hand, any time that she can get near creeps is good because it'll go to the experience to get closer to high levels of marksmanship as well as those big items, because she can earn real money by killing creeps, which is good, which is very good. So I've been pretty impressed for the most part. With the way we've seen movement around the map, both in this game and in the last game. I like the way that people are moving. It's not just that they are moving, it's that they're doing it in intelligent and insightful ways. So every time Pudge goes off the map, for example, people have got to be careful, and that has a Witch Doctor gets a denied tower. Wow, look at that. Okay, there was some pressure on mid and they got a deny. Every time Pudge goes off the map, everyone's got to play more cautiously. So even if he's not killing people with his ganks, as long as people don't know where he is and where he isn't, like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the team. I'm liking it so far. It's very Chinese, very positional Dota, but it's happening. It's happening. It's real. So this silencer, he's still got his consumables, which tells you how well the lane went for him. He's also got this little baby here. That's an interesting item. But this is in general going to be quite interesting. We've addressed the key fault that I said we had to address before the team fight. And we are going to plough straight into this. Curiously, without the major cooldown that we normally have when we do this. But it's going to be uncontested. So, first tower of the game is kill, apart from the deny tower in here. And the deny and the kill both go to BP. So, it's kind of the inverse of the last game we watched, where we where we saw MDA picking up quite a few denies. Worth mentioning, Dro is not a great late game carry. She goes alright late game as Poach just gets run around and he gets run down and he goes down. He just gets a little bit too far out and he gets put in his place. So Dro goes alright late game, right? I'm not saying she's rubbish. There are far worse heroes late game than Dro. What Dro doesn't do though, she doesn't go late game against a Gyro. She doesn't go late game against an Invoker. These are heroes that are empirically stronger than her late game. All of Dro's damage mechanisms don't really scale. They're all flat damage mechanisms. You hit level 16 and that's the best marksmanship is ever going to get. And you have this instant spike of power and you've got to make the most of it. Whereas all of the scaling mechanisms on a Gyro, they scale. Like all one of the actual scaling mechanisms on the Gyro, the only reason the Gyro is a carry, it scales. It keeps scaling. That doesn't get to be less of a big deal as the game goes on. Global Silence comes out, so we're seeing commitment into this. The skill cast comes out, Dro Ranger saved by her stick and her mech, but on the backside of the play, the Invoker isn't as lucky, goes down to the Viper, and the Visage, he throws out the Soul Assumption, there's not quite enough to get the kill, as we see Yuking, and the Ogre sacrifices himself, just gets kited around by the two Orb slows, can't quite catch them, and they live, and that is not good trades from the perspective of MDA. However, owing to the fact that Viper and Dro have no health, it will be interesting to see whether this will be transitioned into a successful tower push. My gut feeling is that it can't. Beyond that, I haven't really got much. There's farm to be had here and there, and that is probably the best thing that we can say about that for them is that they turned the kills into some safe farm, and that is a wayward chakram. Will it matter? It will matter because the mech gets in time, and the Timbersaw goes down, and the Ogre Magi gets hooked in, and he gets destroyed. Destroyed. And who was the last one that died? Okay, no, that's all three. No, the Viper got the Silencer there as well. So that is really, really good for BP. It looks like BP is going to take a fairly commanding early lead of this game off the back of just clever, aggressive play. Like nothing special, nothing out of control. The mech, the mech's a big deal. Mechs save lives. Mechs win team fights. But they're not doing anything special. They're just playing their heroes intelligently, playing their heroes the way they're meant to be played, with the possible exception of this one, who normally you'd see Rice in these circumstances, because she provides most of what she provides to the fight globally. We see the potential for some action here, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. The ward game remains pretty good from both teams. So there's some vision up here and there. Right. So this Viper. I made those comments before about the Dro, but when I really think about it, when you've got a counter carry, and that is a big hit on the Dro Ranger, but the mech is there for her and she survives again, and that is like the third or fourth time she's lived just because of the mech. The Invoker slithers away, regenning, and the Pudge on the backside gets cleaned up by the Timbersaw. A lot of posturing here. Don't think the team's going to re-engage. They're pretty keen to, and bam, Visage resummons Illusions. And, I'm going to, as it gets pinged out, I wasn't going to explicitly comment on it, but I will because it's insane. I don't like the Shadow Blade Dro. You're going to buy pretty much any situation where you consider you should buy a Shadow Blade, you should think very, very carefully about why you're not buying a Blink Dagger instead. And that's even true on Dro. Blink Dro is legit. It is way too legit to overlook in favour of a more expensive, less like Shadow Blade. Right, so we're seeing This early mid game is reminiscent of the last early mid game, where while we've seen the rate of kills pick up a little bit from the laning phase, we haven't seen the kind of balls to the wall action that I would expect. The conservative aggression coming out from BP is appropriate, and it's working, but as always, I'd like to see more. As a free tower that was neither attacked nor defended by any player in the game goes the way of the Radiant. That is a gimme. That probably shouldn't happen, but it did. So the question that I have going further into this game is, where does the Pudge fit into this strat? Pudge isn't a hero that you want to go late with unless you got a lot of flesh heap stacks, or you're abusing a bug with Chen, which doesn't exist anymore. So Pudge hasn't really done what Pudge was meant to do in this game, as he gets sent over in the air again, and he's got stuff coming down everywhere, but the combo whiffs, and he's going to be able to get away after. Will he? No, he won't, because they are all over him like a rash. And this will be the death of the Witch Doctor as well, and the Drow as well. And ladies and gents, that is why we don't buy Shadowblade, because if he had a Blink Dagger, he would 110% have not gotten away because he had Curse of the Soul on him. But if he was thinking carefully, he would have gotten away, because he would have blinked before Curse of the Soul and did his first tick of damage. But alas, we can theory craft all day. So a good turnaround there by MDA. MDA is going to try and use this to at least get some damage on this tier 2. I don't think they've got the time or the gas in the tank to turn it into a kill on the tier 2 tower. Yeah, I don't think they've got the tower damage. No, they don't. So they're content to just take it and go. Leave the Forge Spirits to continue to chip, as Forge Spirits do, and maximise their farm on the map. So yeah, I feel like I'm back where I was before. It just reminds me in so many ways of the last game. It's very different in some other ways. And then we've got the mech on a real mech carrier, and we're able to transition to the mech into some pushes and some good ganks. What does remind me of the last game though, although ironically, Warren's mentioned it's perverse. The team without the mech is the team with more towers who's doing quite well early game. That's galling. No one likes to be wrong. That's a good timing on that. It's pretty good. So it's reminiscent of the last game in that farm efficiency is poor, in that there is lots of farm on the map that is not being utilised. I would like to see that stuff be utilised, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And again, there's a lot of posturing going on. It really does feel like Chinese Dota. There's a lot of heroes just like waiting for something to happen. It's like a Cold War. It's going to happen, and when it happens, it's going to be huge. There's going to be chaos meteors. There's going to be cyclones. It's going to be Armageddon. There's going to be a crazy dude in a suit that he built to cut down trees. He's scared of trees. Whoop, there's the global silence. What can they follow up onto it with? The Timbersaw goes forward, lands a good chakram, and nearly brings down the Witch Doctor. But the Witch Doctor turns and gets skill cast out of the game, but not before he's able to force the Bloodstone Suicide. More heroes dying on the backside. That's 4 now for Parnes going down. BP loses 4 in return for a Suicide Timbersaw and a single Ogre Magi. They take the tier 2 and they may look to go further with this. Why did that happen? Because this dude is hitting like a goddamn truck. That is an early timing for an MKB. And it's pretty ballsy going for an MKB, it must be said, this early in the game. He feels safe enough to do it. I think because he's got the silencer and he's got the silencer, he's got the global silence to bail him back out. But I think more importantly than anything else, he's got the Timbersaw. And you can't just ignore a Timbersaw. So while you're dealing with the Timbersaw, either by running away from his silly chakrams and stuff and dodging him, or by killing him, which granted takes a little bit of work, you are not hunting down the Gyro who was just hunted down. Why was he still there? That's unforgivable. Maybe there was a really good reason. Yeah, you're not hunting down the gyro in these team fights. Even though he's got no BKB, he has no form of active or passive survivability, except for, you could argue the lifesteal's there, but yeah, that's tenuous. That's pretty bloody tenuous. This could turn out pretty interesting. I think he's taunting him. Bam, skill cast. Bam, sunstrike. Bam, right in the face. That was a good sunstrike. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. So the curious thing about that is that the Drow knew that the Ogre Magi was on top of him. That's why he started back. The reason he knew was because I think he knew. I wasn't going to say it at the time just in case, but his aura was turned off because the Ogre was standing on top of him. And I'm just going to, don't want to beat a dead horse, but if he had a blink dagger, he wouldn't have died. No, I'm serious. So if we let's have a look at an inventory. Where are these inventories? Oh, this is so very confusing. Buyback status, net worth, current gold per minute. Oh, I don't press that. I legitimately have no idea how to check inventories. We'll manually check them. So what do we got there? A waste of 4,000 gold. What do we got there? Nothing. Wow, that is one greedy support. But that's good stuff. Like to see it. Bold, aggressive. Gyro listening to me. And another waste of 4,000 gold. So the problem is that as soon as you invest, as we see, great initiation coming out here, great combo onto the Drow Ranger, has to be mech'd up to live. That mech is on cooldown. And the Drow Ranger still nearly goes down. Still, even with the mech, we've got to turn on the Voodoo Restoration to get Drow out of that bind. Granted, that has very little to do with the choice of the Shadow Blade or a Blink. But yeah, I don't know, you pay a lot for not very much. Anyway, she's getting healed back up. She's got her whole team just like hugging her. It's very depressing how much support she needs to even be able to kill creeps. And the support that she needs leaves this lane just so very open for this wanton abuse by the Invoker. It hurts good to see it. So, fascinatingly, we got the early mech, and I was saying that they were doing all the right things. This is one of the things that they really needed to do, that they never quite got around to it. It was on the to-do list, and they just got pushed back a few times. And at this stage, they're at a serious power disadvantage, even though they're the ones who have invested in the early game heroes. Well, that's not quite true. There's good investment in early game heroes from MDA. But they're the ones who have invested in the early game items. They're the ones who went the mech. There's no mech here, at all. These heroes are all orienting ridiculously late game. We've got this super greedy support right here. That is, you haven't been buying enough wards. It's me being old fashioned. The silence comes in, everyone's getting burnt, everyone's getting ripped up. 3 go down, will 4 go down. Whoa, yes, 4 will go down. Jams it in, does the Ogre Magi, and that's a 4-for-0 exchange. So BP was looking strong there for a little bit. They've explicitly said to me today that their strength was playing defensive Dota, but I feel that they keep drafting themselves into a corner. Not in their first game today. I think their draft was pretty much okay in the first game. I just think they played it wrong. But in the subsequent 2 games, I feel like they're drafting themselves into a corner where they've really got something do or die, and they're not they don't have the stronger late game. But they're also not packing the punch in the early game to finish it. Part of it has to come down to this. And I'm not having a dig at Mick. It's not his fault necessarily, but the Pudge has not worked in this game. He hasn't done the things that you want a Pudge to do. It was promising when he started roaming, and he was really damaging the farm efficiency of MDA simply by being off the map. But it's not going to carry you all game. It's not going to carry you all game. Like I asked, where does the Pudge fit into this plan? And the answer is that he doesn't. Doesn't look like he does. Visage continuing towards his Agonins. That will be a big deal if he can get it out. I personally have my doubts about whether we're going to see that or not. And perhaps just as disturbingly, we're not getting a lot of bonus damage out of that just at the moment. Pardon me. Because we have a Dro who is criminally underleveled and underfarmed for 30 minutes of the game, simply because she has been bullied all game. Everywhere she goes, the Silencer's not far behind her to throw curses of the silent all over her, and she's just forced to play so conservatively. Like, look at this. It's out of control. And also we're having that thing where like no one knows what's going on, so everyone's scared. It's real. It's real. We could call it deliberate, meticulous positioning. We could call it lots of things. We'll choose to call it nothing. Nothing at all. Loving this stuff. I'm not actually even sure what that was. I'll have to ask Ogre after the game. Maybe it's a smiley face. So while all of this profound nothing, and I like the Mask of Madness choice, and I'll talk about that in a sec. While all of this great amount of nothing is happening, Invoker is efficiently turning map into farm, and that's going to translate to something. That's an interesting choice. You got to keep your eye on this Invoker. So generally, when I see pub players at about the same level that Dukong plays at, generally when I see pub players picking up the old Ags, I generally think that the same gold could have been better spent on anything because they don't use the extra cooldown, and the difference in mana cost would have been better served by getting something that gives more mana regen. But this is mad, hectic, serious business Dota. So it's perfectly possible that he's actually some kind of a savant, and he's gonna throw like 10 spells in like half a second. Just you watch. The combos will be out of control. Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but he just wandered into the lane. So I thought he was hiding that to make a play out of it, but it may well not be the case. Look at this. This is so aggressive. Is there a 4-star on someone? I would just love to see that Invoker get 4-star up. Alas, it is not to be. It is not to be. Right, so what are we missing to take high ground? You know, I think they may just about have everything. I'm seeing all of the bits falling into place. About the only thing I'd like is a big hook on the Invoker, but the multicast deals more damage by far to the Pudge, and he goes down. We see the combo on the Viper, forced to drop his ult, tries to turn and man fight the Invoker, who is able to save himself with a Yule's. Timbersaw picks up 2, while Ogre Magi finishes off in the middle tower, and they descend upon the top lane of Rax. And the GGs come out. So a well-played game from MDA, weathering the early aggression in both games to be able to turn the tempo of the game back in their favour. It would be an overstatement to say that was a close game. What it was a well-deserved victory, though. Congratulations to MDA on taking the 2 games in the grand final, and we'll have a great presentation ceremony soon to declare them the Northern Territory champions and off to TI with them. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.